Well, I couldn't answer that at this time. I wouldn't know. The people of the South, of course, are firm in their convictions.
And the Majority Leader of the Senate, Mike Mansfield.
The passing of John Fitzgerald Kennedy is not only a tragedy for the nation which he so ably represented, but is, I think, also a mark upon the respectability and the responsibility of some of our citizens. This good, this decent, this kindly man, this harassed man who had so much on his shoulders and received from some people so little in the way of support in return, this man has now gone to his reward.
That was a report from Eddie Barker at our affiliate KRLD in Dallas, Texas. The scene you saw was the luncheon to which President Kennedy was en route. He was planning to address that luncheon in one of his strongest statements yet against those who, as he said, would turn the clock back, but he did not get an opportunity to make that speech.
With me in the studio here is a man who spent 8 years as press secretary for President Eisenhower and is used to the precautions taken for the president's safety, and he is Jim Haggerty, now vice president of ABC Paramount Pictures.
Don, as I said a little earlier, I think this, like the Puerto Rican attempt in front of Blair House in 1950, has to be a planned conspiracy.
This Monday, November 18th, a warmer welcome greets Alabama's Governor George Wallace, bitter foe of school integration. Among his approving listeners is former General Edwin Walker, himself a spokesman for those who are darkly certain that the American dream is being betrayed, even by some elected leaders.
This is a rifle that killed the president.
How many shots had been fired from the rifle?
3.
Have you been able to trace the rifle? Do you know where it was
we're
purchased?
attempting to do that at this time.
Is there any connection yet between this and the firing at Major General Walker?
I do not know.
From Dallas, Texas, the first comment from former Major General Edwin Walker, who is one of the more vocal right-wing leaders in the United States. And he said that the death of Mr. Kennedy is not as surprising as it is tragic. This prepared statement he handed to newsmen from his Dallas home said this: "The tragic events of yesterday demonstrate the internal threat that can never be underestimated."
Yes, sir. Do you expect a confession from this man?
No.
You say it's a strong case?
I think it's sufficient.
What is the evidence that links him to the gun?
I don't care to go into the evidence.
I don't know how long the other man has
What
worked.
type of establishment?
Oswald got to the other side of town. Is there anything that can come up of that? Did he get over by a bus, by a car?
I don't know. We have heard that he was picked up by a Negro in a car.
That is not confirmed.
No, it's not confirmed as far as I know.
Are you looking for the Negro?
We would like to know about him. If it is so, we would certainly like to find him.
Chief Curry, could you detail for us what led you to Oswald?
Not exactly, except in the building
So this must have been a very carefully planned, terrible tragedy and conspiracy.
Why did you decide to try this personally yourself?
Well, I generally try the major cases. I believe this will be classed as a major case.
And he was going to be, I would imagine, as it would.
And from the cities of the United States, where a nation is in almost, I would say it advisedly, almost uncontrollable shock, it seems. They're weeping on the streets. Schools have to be dismissed. My own school was dismissed because the children were weeping so much they couldn't stay in class. Quite a tragic day, as we all obviously know. Do you want me to relieve you a few minutes here? We might stay on the air, certainly, until all of this is...
Were any slugs found?
145 slug. It was found on the south side of Elm Street.
Outside?
Outside on the grass.
And when we got down there, near this cover, we were standing near it, and I looked down.
Manhole cover?
Manhole cover, and I saw this piece of dirt raised up like a ground mold, but it didn't go down. It went across the ground, under it. And I bent over, and I traced it for several foot back, and a policeman appeared and traced it with me, and I said, "What in the world is this? It's like a ground mole hole, but I've never seen one so long." And he says, "That's where a bullet went through." And it traveled quite a ways back, but it did not come out of the ground. I said, "Well, it didn't come out," and he said, "No, it's still in there." And as we turned around to go back to the curve to see where it had come from, there was a nick there in the curve, and just then all the motorcycles came at one time from underneath 183.
Later on is when you tried to let the FBI know of what you saw.
That wasn't until July when they were trying to pick up evidence, and we thought maybe ours might be a little bit of help.
Did they try, were they very interested in
No.
what you had to say? And
No, it was just kind of matter of fact. We don't care whether you come in or
And
not.
after you gave your statement, what did they try to tell you as an explanation for what you saw?
That it was pieces of bone from the skull of the president. And I told him I did not believe that a bone could do all of that.
Journalist Richard Dudman spotted a police officer and a deputy sheriff. An agent joins them. He removes the bullet and pockets it.
Okay, and according to your Warren Commission testimony, you saw where a shot had hit the turf on the south side of Elm Street?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said that the shot had caught the manhole cover at the corner?
The concrete of the manhole cover, yes.
Okay.
That afternoon, after Officer Tippett was killed, they took a suspect into custody. And I was thinking about this man getting away from me.
Well, this was the man that got into the Green Rambler.
The Green Rambler. And I called Captain Fritz at his office and gave him a description of the man I saw get into the Rambler. And he told me, and I quote him, "It sounds like the suspect we have in custody. Come on up and take a look at him." So I went out and got in my unmarked car and drove to the City Hall, went directly to Captain Fritz's office. And we went into Captain Fritz's inner office, and the man was sitting in a chair behind a desk. And there was another gentleman. I assumed he was one of Fritz's people because he had the white cowboy hat on, which was the trademark at that time of the Dallas Homicide Bureau. And Fritz turned to me and said, "Is this the man you saw?" I said, "Yes." And it was. It was. So he turned to the suspect and he said, "This man saw you leave." At which time the suspect became a little excited. And he said, "I told you people I did." And Fritz said, "Now take it easy, son," talking to the suspect. He said, "We're just trying to find out what happened here." He said, "What about the car?" I didn't say station wagon. He said, "What about the car?" At which time the suspect leaned forward and put both hands up on the desk and said, "That station wagon belongs to Mrs. Payne. Don't try to drag her into this." Then he leaned back and very disgustedly said,